So, we are going to be reviewing the end of Act 3 of Arcane, episode 9. If you haven't seen this series yet, highly recommend going to see it like right now. Stop what you're doing and just watch it because this series is the best thing in the last decade. Like, especially the ending. This series, Arcane, just defined a whole genre. It's absolutely insane the amount of care and love that was put into this series. Something I can't say about the game that it's based off of, but man, so let's jump into it. So if you don't know, spoilers are going to be in here, because how else am I going to talk about it? So this will be here when you get back. So, go watch the series and then come back and then we could discuss it together. So, starting off, we picked up right where we left off. It was on the raid on the chemical plant where Shimmer was being created by Silco. Jace killed the kid, and he's going through it, and he has to come to grips with what he just did, because I had mentioned in the last couple of videos, like, Jace didn't understand war, and now he gets that there's going to be collateral. He has a picture of war's gonna look like between Piltover and Zahn, and it's something he doesn't want. He doesn't take it well at all, because this is his first time killing somebody, and it's his first kill. Well, actually, that's not true. He just killed a couple like turbo chem tanks, but he killed a kid. That's huge, right? And Vi brings up a good point, saying, "Hey, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I understand how you're feeling, but that kid's knew what he signed up for, right? And and besides, that's not the first person technically that you've killed. This is the first time that you see that you're complicit in what just happened. Like, your inaction, it kills hundreds of kids every day. So what's it matter that he sees the one? Jace is like, don't you get it? Like, I'm involved in this now, and he's going through it, right? So he wants Vi to get back to Gauntlets, but Vi's like, no, we still need to stop Silco, and I'm not giving these back. Vi's a thug. So, you know, they prepare to do battle. Jace has his Mercury Hammer, Vi has her gauntlets, but Jace doesn't want the smoke and he just lets Vi go, saying, you'll never make it without me, or something like that. Right. Right. So, Vi goes off on her own to do her own thing. And Jace goes back, not to the lab. He actually ends up meeting up with Victor. Speaking of Victor, Victor's going through it too. I said before that these two people, Jace and Victor, are two sides of the same coin, right? And Arcane is doing such a good job at showing how human these characters are and the things that they deal with, right? So I don't know, I just appreciate it because it's adding depth to where there wasn't any before. And I don't mind the retcons to the lore. This is perfect. This is better than the lore we have in the game. Like, because it's building up to something that's familiar and something we already know, right? So Victor accidentally killed Sky, turned her to dust when she tried to save him, when he got in over his head trying to use the hex core to augment his body again. And he reads her notes, and it has something. I thought it was gonna have something to do, that was gonna be the eventual, that was gonna have to do with the eventual like philosophy he would develop about the glorious evolution. But I was reading her notes, and it has something to do with plants, right? Because that's what the diagram showed, and I had trouble reading cursive, so I'll probably go back to that and try and decode what it says later, if it's even like legible. But yeah, so she's reading her notes and gets a letter from her saying how Victor always inspired her to do her best and whatever, how he's always working, and basically just admitting her love for Victor, and it tears Victor apart. Like, he's crying on the floor, and he just can't process it all. It's tough, man. All that's left of Sky is her notes, her research, the letter, and her glasses, which Victor keeps for himself. He takes her to the spot where he met Heimerdinger, at his little like waterway, at the little waterway spot, and he's like, he gathers her ashes and takes her there, and he's like, I'm so sorry. I don't even know where you would want to be, buried or whatever. Because during all that time that they've known each other, Victor's been so caught up in his work, he forgot to be like, he forgot the human element of things, right? Those little moments that all that time he could have taken to get to know Sky and build a meaningful relationship went towards his work. And you feel for Victor. You really feel for Victor. He pours her ashes out into the water, and as he gets up, he gathers her things, and just Arcane is like poetry. It rhymes, like what we saw at the end of Act 1, Episode 3, when Jace was about to jump off the building and end his own life. Victor's at his low point too, and when he's about to take the leap, he takes a step forward. Who shows up? His friend Jace, who's there for him, like he always has been. Like, they've been distant, but he's there for him, and they talk, and they realize they're both going through it, like today. And they take solace in each other, that they have each other's company, even though Victor's still dying. Like, they spent this there there's a theme in this episode, and I think Echo sums it up perfectly. He's like, it's not enough to give, it's not enough to give us what we need to live. It's um I'm trying to think of Echo's quote, man. It was really good. It's like, it's not enough to give us enough to survive. It's what we need to live, right? So yeah. So small moments like that was just absolutely fantastic, and I'll get to the Heimerdinger scene in a little bit. But yeah, they start recounting and they start bringing up simpler times, like like this past 7 years. I bet it was the time of Victor's life, right? And we all know his life is coming to an end pretty soon. And he's like, times used to be so simple back then, where we just worked on what we wanted to work on. We made mistakes and we had fun while we were doing it, And Victor said, in our quest to be great, we forgot to do good. Right? In our quest to do great things, we forgot to do good. Right? And Jace is looking, he's like, yeah. And then Victor's like, you have to destroy it. Jace misinterprets what Victor's meaning, because he looks at his Mercury hammer. He's like, yeah, I have to destroy that because it's a weapon. But what Victor really means is, you have to destroy the hex core. And Jace is like, what? But what about your illness, your disease? Victor he accepts his fate, because he sees he sees that science has gone too far and it's taken a life, right? Jace killed a kid. Victor killed the person who loved him the most. Both going through it. So he makes Jace promise him that he's gonna destroy the hex core, right? Because he couldn't. Because previously in the lab, Victor tried to destroy it when he after he disintegrated Sky accidentally, but he couldn't. The hex core is conscience now. Like, it has a touch of the void in it. It always takes like what you give it, and it just like consumes it and adapts, and it even shows that it overcomes now, because when Victor was going to smash it, it's sentient. It was even backing off of its little like resting spot on the table when Victor was moving in towards it, and when Victor turned his back, it even retaliated against Victor. Like, it was showing it has control over Victor in a way, because it made Victor lose strength when he lifted up the chair to try and smash it, and it can cause him pain. So Victor's connected to it whether he wants to be or not, which is a scary thing. He literally can't do anything to it. So it has to be Jace, but I have a feeling that it's going to go farther than that, and that promise is not going to be fulfilled, because we know who Victor becomes later, the Machine Herald. So I'm curious to see how that plot point is going to play out. But yeah, so that's the end of their story for now, until we get to the council room. I want to touch on Medarda's story. Mel. Her mom is pushing Mel to create a weapon, right? Just to let the war in the city unfold and get Jace to create X-Tech weapons because they need it. Because the person who killed Mel's brother, she said the score isn't settled yet and he's still coming. I think it might be Swain personally, unless they introduce another party to the mix. But, you know, Mel is not her mother, right? She's her own woman, and this is her city, and she's gonna do things her way. She's the diplomat, right? She's not in her mother's shadow. She's her own person. And I'm wondering if she's Solarian. Because I remember in episode 2, she was in like Solari like attire. And I wonder if it plays into the ending as well. But we'll get there. But anyway, Jace ends up meeting with Silco. He calls for a meeting with Silco at the docks. He gives Silco. He tells Silco. I'm sorry. Silco gives Jace his terms, his terms for to broker peace, right? And Jace looks at it. He's like, oh, you want unlimited access to the Hex Gate, you want amnesty, and you want Zon to become its own nation? Are you crazy? Done. And Silco's like, what? And Jace is like, you know what? You can have all this because I've seen what war between Zon and Piltover is going to look like. And you're going to lose it. Like, you're on the losing end, and I'm trying to save you. And if giving you all this means avoiding all this bloodshed, then fine, you can have it. Because if we go to war, you're going to lose. Right? And Silco was just taken aback by this. He was like, oh, you're not the fresh-faced graduate I thought you were. Academy graduate I thought you were. Jace has balls, right? Pretty much Silco has nothing to bargain with, but Jace gives it to him anyway. Because he doesn't want to spill any more blood than he already has. A total power move. Jace says he'll give him whatever he wants. He just has to stop the production of Shimmer, right? Shut down his factories, yeah, and most importantly, give him Jinx because she has to pay for what she has done. And with that, Jace freaking won the negotiations because he backed Silco into a corner by calling for Jinx's head, right? Silco gets defensive immediately. He's like, it wasn't Jinx's fault. Why Jinx? I ordered this. You should be asking for my head instead. And Jace is like, it'll look bad if we make a deal, then cut the head off the snake. Give me Jinx and this will be over with. And it pushes Silco into a corner because Silco's whole theme is that of loyalty. Right? Silco lives and bleeds for Zon, but he will bleed for Jinx and die for Jinx. If given the opportunity, he'll do it because that's his daughter, right? And it shows that I love Silco's character. Silco's a badass. He really is. I had to warm up to Silco, but as I saw him in this last episode, just confirmed it. I was like, okay. Everything Silco was saying before, he's not a villain. He's really not. He's the antagonist, but he's not a true villain. You get why he's doing this. Because we've seen how the people of Zon live. They shouldn't have to live like that. Well, the people in Piltover get to live in their ivory towers. You get what Silco's saying. And it goes to show Silco's torn up about this. He's when he goes to Vander's statue, and he's like, wow, I finally get it now, brother. Everything I could have ever wanted is right here. The boy didn't even bargain, and I'd lose nothing but problems. The simplest requests. But he's Jinx is there behind the statue. Silco doesn't know Jinx is there. But, Jinx interprets it as, Silco's gonna give Jinx up. But no, quite the opposite. Silco was never gonna give Jinx up. It was I felt especially during the ending, I felt how things would go if Jace didn't make a demand for Jinx, that Silco would have taken the deal. But because Jinx was involved, that was an absolute It wasn't even on the table. Silco made up his mind that there would be no peace. We're gonna do this the hard way because he asked my daughter, and Silco is believes in loyalty. He lives it and he breathes it, right? So we're gonna cut back to Vi's section. No, we're gonna cut to Heimerdinger and Echo's section. Heimerdinger's finally getting reconnected with Zahn, the real Zahn. The people that could survive during any that are hardy, that could survive during hardship, right? And the fun of science as well. Like, see, he's seeing how Echo like improve people's lives and what they've built, even though they have nothing. It's a beautiful scene where Heimer's like, "You built all this and with your short lifespan, but how?" And then Echo's like, it's not enough to give people what they need to survive. You need to give them what they need to live. And I felt like that hit a chord with Heimerdinger, and he's getting connected, with Echo, and he's gonna become the scientist that he needs to be, right? And Echo, we even see during the end that he's working with Echo, and they're talking about something, which I assume is gonna be Echo's Z drive. So maybe in the lore, Echo built it himself. After Victor and Jace's fight, he collected a piece of hex crystal, but the whole thing about the crystals has been kind of like retcon, unless those are still Skarner's people. Where's Camille? I wonder if her origin is going to be retconned in here as well. Maybe, maybe not, we'll see. But anyway, now to Vi's section. She finds Sabetica at the last drop, and she just... Before I get there, there was a scene between Silco, Sabetica, and the Kim Barons where, the shifty one thought he was gonna make a move for power on Silco and usurp him, but Sabetica, cut the head off the snake and put it into that immediately. She was just playing him. She is loyal. Like, all of Silco's talks of loyalty, Sabetica, it'd be cool to have her as a champion in the game because she's just dope. Cuts the head off the snake, and that's the end of it. Then Silco is even like, "Be honest, were you tempted? Were you tempted to actually take me out?" I forgot what she said, but Sabetica's loyal as shit, and his like left hand for a reason, whereas Jinx is his right hand. So yeah. So anyway, back to Vi's scene. Vi finds Sabetica at the last drop, and the odds are even now because Vi has the Hextech gauntlets, but that doesn't make her invincible. So they're brawling like in the last drop. They tell everyone get the hell out, and they just go at each other. Sabetica gets the upper hand, and Vi gets the upper hand. It's pretty even. Vi's the better fighter, but Sabetica's enhanced by Shimmer and all that. And when Vi gets knocked, I love that Vi takes hits, even though she has the gauntlet. She's still blocking with her face, like what Echo says. And even Vander, she hallucinates a specter of Vander, and he's like, "Well, your guard still needs a little work, but you'll make it through like you always do. Now get up, Vi, and finish it," and all that. So she spits out a tooth, and she loses one of her gauntlets, but she still like beats down like Sabetica pretty badly, and almost sends her flying when she uses her passive shield, and then just throws her into like a jukebox, ripping off her arm and ending the fight there. And she's screaming because she's victorious. Victorious. And, Jinx was there watching the entire thing. She's like, "Bravo, sis," before she knocks Vi out, which brings us to the last act where Vi wakes up and she's like, "Where am I? Oh my god, Jinx, is that you?" And Jinx is there, and she's telling her how, out of all this time, Vi is the one who's helped her survive and get through it. She's always been in the back of her head, the prickle on her neck. And then Vi opens up. She's like, "During those cold nights in prison, the only thing that got me through those nights was the thought of getting back to you, Powder." Like, because we're sisters, and Jinx asks the question, "After all this, are we still sisters?" And Vi's like, "Always." So Jinx appears, and she turns on the lights. Well, she lights some candles, and the scene is so beautiful in a scary sort, in an eerie sort of way. Silco's there, and Jinx is like, this guy's been telling me lies this entire time. He thinks he made Jinx, but the reality is, Vi, you made Jinx. You made me the way that I am, right? So Jinx is like, oh, before I continue, this whole scene is framed at. It reminds me of a section of a comic, a Batman comic. It's the arc where Joker ripped, cut off his face, and he manages to capture the Bat family. And when he does, he sets them all down to serve them dinner, and it's all their own face. That's the vibe I got from this. It reminded me of that scene. I forgot what it was called though, but it was pretty good. But yeah, it reminded me of that. So Jinx puts on Vi's gauntlets and she brings out a snack. And Vi's like, "What's that?" And it's like, "I paid your girlfriend a visit this morning." And we know Caitlyn's not dead, but the tension in that scene was through the roof because Vi doesn't know that, and she's like, "Oh my god, did she cut off her head and she's gonna serve it to me?" It's that unpredictability of Jinx because this is the film universe. She very well could have killed Caitlyn, but no, too easy. So she's like, she looks at Vi. Jinx knows exactly what she's doing. She wants to torment her sister a little bit, so she pulls up the little cover and she's like, well, "I'm not that crazy," and it's just like a cupcake with the hex core on top of it. So she wheels out Caitlyn in a wheelchair, and then she wants to make Vi choose. She's like, "On this chair it says Powder, that chair it says Jinx. I want you to choose. You get to choose where I sit, but first make her go away. you know make her go away, and I'll be Powder again." Right? Silco has some words to say about that because he wakes up and he's like, da da da. And, Vi's like, "I can't do it. I can't do it." Like, Vi's put in an impossible situation. She can't just take her friend's life because Silco makes an excellent point when Jinx takes off his muzzle and she's like, "Her name is Jinx, not Powder. Like, she'll be with you. Like, listen, Jinx, she'll be with you for a day till she realizes you're not the same little girl anymore. You've changed, right? And she won't accept you. Like, she'll betray you. They'll only betray us, Jinx. There is only us." And in hindsight, everything Vander says, Vander just wakes up spitting because he's absolutely correct. Like, Jinx isn't the same person. It's not like they could just walk away from everything that Jinx has done. The people she's killed, like, all the lives she's taken, all of that. They can't just walk away from it. They can't live normally anymore. Even though Vi says, "I'll just, we'll run away together." It's her being idealistic because she hasn't spent more than like an hour with her sister. Ever since she got back, they've always been interrupted. She's too far gone. And Caitlyn even tries to get that through her head as well. Like, we want to say that, but truly, and I've been saying this entire time, I didn't feel like Jinx is Jinx yet. But during this finale, it most definitely, now she's Jinx because of what happens next. So Vi's trying to, Caitlyn manages to get herself free because earlier Jinx shot a cup, like a glass, like wine glass, and she used that to cut her ropes and managed to get Pow Jinx's minigun. She points it at Jinx, right? And she's trying to get Jinx to back down, and Vi's like, "No, don't shoot her. She's my sister. She's still in there and whatever." But Jinx gets excited and overpowers Caitlyn because she moves really quick, and I think that's an excellent touch from in the game because that's Jinx's passive, right? And I thought it was an excellent touch to show Jinx's speed like that because she's affected by Shimmer. It's literally in her blood now, and it's flowing through her. So, and I said before that's Singed used his ultimate insanity potion on Jinx. Right, so I thought that was just a perfect tie-in to explain her abilities and why she can move so fast, because it makes sense canonically because we see it with the Turbo Chem tanks that Jace and Vi were fighting, how fast they move. So it makes perfect sense why Jinx is enhanced the way she is. Like, you even see when she cries, she's crying shimmer. Those aren't regular tears. It's literally in her blood now. So she overpowers Caitlyn, gets her machine gun back, and you know, Vi's trying to reach her from and stop her from killing Caitlyn with her words. She's like, just remember everyone. Remember Milo, Clagger, our parents, our mom, our dad, and Vander. Silco, it's just like, no, shut the fuck up. She's Jinx now. Don't listen to her, Jinx. And he manages to get himself free, and he's trying to silence Vi once and for all. When Jinx hears that click of her weapon, she turns around and she fires on Silco reflexively. Just, man, putting pinholes in this guy, killing him, right? And she realizes what she's done, and she's like, no. She runs to him, and she's like, don't go, please, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. It was an accident. And Silco's a real one, homie. Like, in his last words, he doesn't blame her. He's like, I know it was an accident. Like, don't cry. Don't cry. You're my daughter, and you're perfect. And he loves her. And, oh man, that hit me right in the feels, because this entire time I believe Silco's words. And during the very end, you find out who people are. It's like right when they're about to die. And during the very end, Silco lived and breathed and bled for Zahn. And in the end, he during his last words, he lived, he breathed, he bled for Jinx. And he didn't blame her like Vi did, you know, all those years ago. He was on her team until the very end. And he dies peacefully. And with that, Jinx makes up her mind. She through her own choice. Like, mind you, Silco was never in Jinx's head. He was never. Sure, he might have, like, he's only guided her, really. He never really made her do anything she didn't want to do. He's only encouraged her, and, you know, had her focus on what she's good at. I mentioned before, like her gadgetry, for instance. That's it. And it became important later because of what happens next. Like, he's only pushed Jinx to be her best self, even if it was an agent of chaos, right? And even though she was like a problem, he even acknowledges it, how she's a problem, but he still loves her regardless. I could write a whole dossier on Silco's character, because his character is just literal diamond in the rough of Zahn. Because in the end, he only wanted what was best for Jinx and what was best for his city, Zahn. Silco was the hero of his own story, and he is one of the best written, like, antagonists I've ever seen. I can't even call him a villain, because it's like the lengths this guy went through, and the loyalty that he shows to his own people, and the loyalty he gets back. Like, it's no wonder Savetica still follows him, because he's a good leader, really. So Jinx makes her choice willingly. Powder is dead. Like, I felt like Powder truly died during episode 7, when Echo, during her fight with Echo, and she blew herself up. That was when she was literally reborn as Jinx. And Silco's death only solidified that, right? Because she's too far gone, and she understands that. Like, there's no going back from that. And she's killed her only family that she had. She killed Milo, she killed Clagger, she killed Vander, she killed her second father as well. And the only thing tying her to the past now is just Vi. So she's just like, here's to us, sis. And she sits down in the chair, takes a minute, and then she gets up and she makes her decision that she's gonna see things through, like Silco's last wish. So she goes outside. Well, they're already outside, because they're at the abandoned factory that they destroyed in Act 1, Episode 3. And she goes to the ledge and she picks up the weapon she's been working on this entire time. Fishbone. owns is her rocket launcher with the super mega def rocket, and it's confirmed that that's actually a hex tech weapon. It's a hex tech munition. She places the hex core in, and the music plays, and it is perfect. Everything about this scene is just perfect. The how everything is being framed by the red moon, which means blood has been spilled, and more blood is going to be spilled as Jinx aims and she fires the rocket as she's crying, bleeding shimmer down her as tears. So she fires the rocket, and it's toward the council room where they're debating. So let's cut before that happens. Jace brought a proposition that, hey, I'm not fit to like lead the city of Zon, and neither I'm not fit to govern Zon, and neither are y'all. So let's give Zon their amnesty. Let's grant them, let's let them become their own nation. And the people in the council are just outraged. They're like, what? Like, you even see like Caitlyn's mom like knock over a wine glass. They're that upset. Everyone's standing up from their chairs, yelling at each other. Victor's just chilling there, and Jace is just taking it. And Medarda is absolutely on Jace's side. Mel is absolutely on Jace's side. She's like, yo, we're trying to broker peace here. Like, if we don't give it to him, it's gonna be civil. It's gonna be war. And we know everyone in that council room is low key corrupt, and because they have enterprise in Zon, and they'd be giving that up by letting Zon become their own nation. It's unthinkable. But the vote goes through, and they all decide civilly that, yeah, they can have it. Zon can become their own nation. Everyone gets what they want, right? And Jace and Mel look at each other, and they're like, we did it. Like, this nightmare is gonna be over, right? And Silco wins too, because Zon gets to become their own nation. It's a win-win situation. And Jace didn't even get Jinx yet. It's insane. Everyone gets what they want, but Jinx jinxes it, like she always does. It's poetry, it rhymes. Right? Just when you think there's an out, Jinx finds a way to mess it all up, because the rocket is on the way. You see it fly past the moon, and it's going to the tower. The super mega def rocket is ready to assassinate everyone in that chamber. And something interesting happens. The gold on Mel's neck, I think she might have innate magical talent, because it reacts and it kind of alerts her that something's coming from behind, right? And you get to see it shimmer, and then she's the first person to turn around and look, and you just see the mega def rocket as it crashes through the window and then fades black. All you see is the big smile of it that Jinx painted onto it. So I have no idea how they're gonna survive that. Like, Caitlyn's over there crying, like, because she knows where her mom is, right? Then we see a little montage of Echo working with Heimerdinger and Sin. Yo, confirmed, Vander is absolutely Warwick, because we see, like, inside of Singe's lab that there's a man strung up, like, connected to wires, and his face, his sideburns, know those sideburns anywhere. That's Vander. Apparently Singe got access to Vander's body, and I was correct, he had it the entire time. And he's working on it. He's working on a transmutation experiment, which will eventually turn him into Warwick. And the art match, if you go to the Lowell Universe page, the art matches up to the story of making the monster, which is Warwick's story. Singe just notes on how he's experimenting on someone, right? So that's turned out to be Vander, who eventually becomes Warwick through Singe's experiments. So that's going to be interesting, because the implications of him being alive, well, he's dead, but he's going to come back to life. Going to be revived. Oh man, it's just crazy. But that ending, we just end on the rocket shattering the glass. Yeah, that's it. We have to wait till season 2 to find out what happens. Like, out of all the people in that room, Jace has plot armor, Victor has plot armor. Mel presumably has plot armor. I don't know. I don't know about Mel yet. I get the sense that she has innate magical talent, because what can really save them all in that situation, unless the super mega death rocket is a dud, you know? But it's not a dud. Either, like my own theory, either the hex core intervenes and saves Victor because he's in the room, or Mel shields her party if she turns out to actually be the new support and has that ability to do that, which means the other people in the council room get blown up because you know, Caitlyn might lose her mother here, Mel might die, but the other counselors, most definitely, they're goners. But Victor, Jace, they got plot armor. And if Mel dies, that opens up the possibility that Noxus might go to war with Piltover because of what Jinx did. And if Mama Medarda finds out that her daughter's dead, that all bets are going to be off the table. There's going to be no negotiations. She's going to rain down the full force of House Medarda on Piltover. So yeah, that's where we left off. It was a beautiful scene. Silco's a real one. Jinx made her choice. She didn't have to, but she did. She's too far gone. It's just a sad situation, and this series Arcane has been poetry. It rhymes. From start to finish, it's just been a treat. It's been a pleasure watching this series, and it goes by so quickly. 40 minutes just zips by like that. So, that's the end of it. That's all I got, man. Oh, and another thing to note, Singe was actually looking at a little pocket watch or a little locket that he had, which presumably is his daughter, because as I mentioned before, Singe has a daughter that he mentioned when he put Silco to sleep with that injection. So I'm like, okay, so that gives a little bit more nuance to Singe's character, because, you know, Singe is a bastard, but as I said before, Singe only provides the science. You know, everyone else decides what they're going to do with it, just like in Game House, Singe merely provides the poison, you know, and you make the choice whether you want to run at it or not. So, when is Singe the type to actually sit down and just contemplate? Because he keeps his locket or pocket watch with him. I think it was a watch. And since when is he the type to like just contemplate and think about anything other than himself and what he wants in science? Which makes me think, if that was a pocket watch instead of a regular locket, that just in my head, that just opens up the Oriana plotline. If they're retconning Oriana to be Singe's daughter, who had a tragic accident, the same disease that ravaged Victor's body, she got the worst of it. And maybe he's gonna slowly turn her into a Hextech abomination, and by replacing her organs that are no longer functional with Hextech and making her the Oriana that we know. So that's a very strong possibility, because we know that Singe most definitely knows how to do it. He worked under Heimerdinger way back when. So he's just as capable as all these other characters. It's Echo, Jace, Victor, and Singe. So that would be completely in line with his character. Like, there's so many ways they can do it if they were to change Oriana's story. I'm just super excited for Oriana. I just love her character. And there's, oh man, I can't wait for season 2. I want Riot to take as much time as they need to for season 2. They already have the animation model set up. Like, they already have the layout of the city and all that. It's just a matter of like completing it nice and slowly and getting the story like airtight, because I have questions. It's been a wild ride, and Arcane set the precedent for an entire genre, and the potential for a whole League of Legends cinematic universe is finally here. Riot's going to take over the world if they continue to do this properly. I'm going to be there to watch all of others that love me some more. So if you like this video, comment down below what you loved about Arcane and your favorite moments or whatever, especially about this ending. Be happy to read it. But if that's all, be sure to leave me a dislike and, just leave me your thoughts. So it's been fun. Bye now.